This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Wednesday, August 6th of 2025. Is the eve of the Iowa State Fair, and we are so glad you can join us for today's show, and also hope that you can visit us at the Iowa State Fair outside of the cattle barn on the west side, just outside of the Super Bowl. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I talk with Emily Prevo. She's an AgriGold agronomist in southern Iowa as we talk about the latest crop conditions. Also have an update on the closing markets from the folks at agmarket.net. But first, here's my conversation with Emily Prevo as we discuss the conditions as well as disease pressure in southern Iowa. And while we've had adequate moisture for crop growth this year, we've also seen some disease pressure from that. Emily, first off, could you tell us what area you cover in Iowa and what disease pressure you've seen and just how the crops are looking right now?
Yeah, Riley. So thank you for having me today. As you said, my name is Emily Prevo, AgriGold agronomist, and I cover all of southern Iowa from the Mississippi to the Missouri River, I-80 South. So a very large area that I do cover. And with that being said, I get to see a lot of different things through the growing season. But as far as crop condition today, I'm really looking to back to planting. Planting went very smoothly in a lot of areas. While east to west, we've seen a little bit of different planting conditions. I would say the one thing that we can conclude is that residue was a huge issue this year with planting. And so I do think we'll see some side effects from some of those heavy residue areas as we go into harvest and just some of the sins of planting that evolved from that. But overall, we had a very smooth go around with planting, not a ton of replant. With that being said, though, we did have very adequate moisture as we went through the growing season. I think guys are very aware of that. We've had a lot of heavy rainfalls, but very consistent, very adequate moisture, which has been a blessing in exchange for the last few years where we've had a lot of drought areas. With that heavy moisture, though, I would also say, though, nitrogen shortage might be an issue in some areas and just some ponding, and those effects might play into things as far as as well as some leaf disease as we move into later this fall and in harvest. So.
And then, like I was mentioning earlier, we have that enhanced disease pressure this time of year. Is that kind of the big reason why scouting is just so critically important as we get into this time frame of the crop season?
For sure, Riley. So, whenever we think about scouting for crop disease, it sounds extremely elementary, but we go back to that disease triangle. You've got to have a favorable environment, acceptable host, and then that disease there, that pathogen to be present. And so that is really something that we've set ourselves up for perfectly this year. I know over the last month, I don't know if we've had very many days where we have not seen wet leaf conditions, just adequate moisture, been very, very humid and hot. And so that's really just set us up for this perfect storm for disease to move in. I know we've had a lot of southern movement with rain as well. And so we've allowed some southern rust and different things to move up in that jet stream. And so as we move into the next couple weeks here, scouting for disease is going to be extremely important. I think it's something that's been important already that we've been on top of. I would say this year we have seen disease a lot earlier than the last couple years as well. We've seen disease, especially like tar spot, move in late in 1st of September timeframe in a lot of areas the past couple years. And this year's kind of been a different story. And so as we continue to move into fall, it's going to be extremely important just to scout for that. I know a lot of guys have put their fungicide on already, and maybe if you haven't, that's something you definitely could be looking into or considering. I know with crop prices, that can be a very tricky conversation. My husband and I farm myself, so I understand that. But definitely something to be at the forefront of everybody's mind.
And then, like you mentioned on the corn side of things, tar spot earlier in the season, kind of corn rootworm are big things that farmers are looking for. Right now, though, it is important to kind of assess your fields for stalk integrity as well, something that maybe doesn't get talked about quite as much. Could you tell us a little bit about the importance of making sure that there's strong stalk integrity in those cornfields?
Yeah, for sure. So I know one thing I touched on earlier was just that residue management earlier this year, and maybe some issues with compaction or just that excess residue, and maybe some sense of planting issues out the gate, and then obviously all of this moisture that we have had. I would say that there is some possibilities that we could see some stock integrity issues moving into fall. I know we've already seen reports of diplodia showing up out in Illinois, and as we move into fall, some crown rots, fusariums, anthracnose, all that types of things are things that we're going to continue to monitor and look for as we go into fall, and really why that's important, especially in these wetter environments. Harvestability, timing, and all that are crucial. And so if there's something we need to go get first, definitely want to be on top of that and stay vigilant in that as we move into fall. So.
And then one of the big things that farmers can look at, I think one of the biggest things they can look at for disease prevention, just making sure they have a healthy crop, is what hybrids they select. Could you touch on just how critically important hybrid selection is to making sure that not only do you get a great start, but you have a great finish to the crop season?
Yeah, for sure. And so I think that's something that we always try to point out from the agronomy perspective is if we had a crystal ball, we would always go out with the perfect hybrid, and we would always, know exactly how to manage everything and just have that perfect from the get-go. And unfortunately, that's not the case in ag and not the case in farming. And so really, whenever I'm working with growers specifically, I'm always of a mindset of selling our mix and picking through hybrids to reduce that risk going out on our farm. And so I think that's the first step. And really, whenever we start to go pick hybrids, especially from the AgriGold perspective, is we are going out with a portfolio of hybrids and really placing those on your acres and on your farm to best fit your needs. And so, but within our lineup, we're really excited about some new products that we have coming. They've been out here the last year, and what we have going into the coming year, just extremely excited about them. But I'm looking at specifically plant health and that, and late season kernel fill are always great things that we love to look for in a hybrid. And so I think that's going to be no different here in this coming year, and something that we're looking forward to working with.
And one last thing, among that AgriGold portfolio for those hybrids, are there any that you'd like to highlight for producers to kind of keep an eye on and hopefully consider for next year?
Yeah, so I think our new big dog here in the coming years, the new 112-day AgriGold's A642 32 VT2 rib, new 112-day that we have in our lineup, did phenomenal things this past year, and look for it to continue to not only be a yield leader, but also provide growers with that agronomic stability, good green snap control, and just overall plant health. New 109-day that we have that we're looking at that we're really happy about, 108-day. But really within my world down here in the South, that new 112-day and then a 114-day that we have, A644-64. It's got the ability to run on your top end acres, but then also be able to handle those moderate acres as well, and be able to go to work for you on your operation.
All right, Emily, lots of great information today for any producers who would like to get in touch with AgriGold and learn more about those hybrids and find their local agronomist. How can they do that?
Yeah, so if you're interested in it, feel free to look on agrigoldmarketing.com, and we have a bunch of resources and links there. And as always, you can feel free to reach out to me, myself, emily.prevo@agrigold.com, and we would love to contact with you.
That again was Emily Prevo, an AgriGold agronomist in Southern Iowa. We'll take a look at the closing markets next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're here now with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net to take a look at the closing market summary. First off, Ross, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Hey, Riley, it's another day of red ink for the most part across corn and beans. Corn actually did rally back a little bit if you're trying to find something bright to look at, but on the day, December, corn ended the day just down 3/4 of a penny. Corn was pretty much just around a penny lower across most of the contracts. Soybeans were 5 to 6 cents lower on the day. The wheat market, Chicago wheat, was unchanged to a penny higher, and Kansas City was right around 6 cents higher.
I think the rain that we saw here in much of Iowa today, I think really kind of demonstrates the reason why the markets are just not doing much of anything and kind of going lower, is that the crop season and the weather has been so good that it's tough for anything to move the market prices up, right?
Correct. There's just at this time of the year, it's tough enough to rally in July and August, in any year for that matter. But when you look at just what the crop looks like and the moisture that we've had across the corn belt, and we continue to have it, there's just very little reason to rally this market too much. It was encouraging, I guess, to see D's corn. I mean, we did make a new contract low at 396 3/4 here today. Before it did bounce a little, we closed 4.5 to 5 cents off of those lows here. But yeah, when you step back and just look at it, everybody knows the crop is big. You're starting to hear a lot of private yield guesses come out. I would say on the low end, you're talking 185, and some of these upper guesses are on the upper end of the range are pushing 188. So I think now it's just a function. We know the crop's big. The market knows the crop's big, but it's just going to take to see how big it actually is it. But anything, I mean, if we would see 185 or bigger, it's extremely difficult to rally this market. And honestly, if the corn yield's looking to be 185, I would think we probably haven't even seen the lows yet in this corn market.
And then, of course, with any news that could impact the marketplace, we've got the WASDE report next week. So far, at this point, what are we expecting to potentially see in that from the USDA?
The guesses still haven't been released on what they are for this report, but yeah, I mean the big numbers to watch in this report is obviously going to be corn and bean yield, and with what it's going to be interesting to see what kind of an adjustment that the USDA does make on this, and that's going to be the biggest numbers, I think, that the market, especially on the corn side of things. I mean, the corn yield is what's getting all this attention right now, given what the crop looks like, and so all eyes are going to be on what kind of increase does the USDA make on that. And I mean, by all rights, I think it makes sense, or it warrants that we see a good size yield increase in this from where the USDA has been at the trend yield. And obviously on soybeans, I mean, they've been holding that soybean yield at a little over 52 and a half. And I mean, the weather has been extremely good. You know, there is concerns about being too wet on beans and some disease pressure. When you do drive around, I mean, the soybean crop looks good as well right now. And with beans being made in August, I mean, we certainly could use some warmer weather, and there is some warmer temps in the forecast here, but we could handle drying out across a lot of the corn belt, which would probably help these beans, because it doesn't look like the 10-day forecast doesn't have any temps in it that's too concerning by any means. And even if we were to see some, significantly hotter temperature, I mean, we've got enough moisture right now to definitely get through that.
Then over on the livestock side of things, we know that inverse relationship between the grains and the livestock often means that the grains lower, the livestock are higher. How are they looking today?
It's exactly what played out again today. We've seen the live cattle and feeder cattle markets scream higher. Fat cattle were anywhere from 2 to 250 higher, with a lot of contracts making new contract highs, especially the deferred months. Feeder cattle, they were 4 to 450 higher for the most part. And it's just like live cattle, a lot of them contracts were making new contract highs. I mean, the cattle market continues just to scream higher, and we've had some pullbacks here recently. I mean, you go back to last Thursday, we made a new contract high and had a nasty reversal where a couple of the months on fats and feeders touched limit down on the day, which limit anymore is 725 for fats and 925 for feeders. And it's only taken us, I believe, about 3 days here to completely rally back all of that and trade back above what the contract highs were from last Thursday. So, I mean, the fundamentals, they remain extremely bullish. I mean, fat cattle, we're not swimming in numbers. The packers, they've been struggling to keep enough numbers around them, even with how much they've reduced slaughter here. There's a lot of optimism that you're going to see cash trade probably on the low end of 247, I would say, which was the high end of last week's trade. But there's a lot of optimism that we can finally start to see 250 paid in the country for fat cattle here. And on the feeder side of things, I mean, with where corn's at, it's extremely bullish for feeder cattle. I mean, you factor in just say $2.45 fat cattle. I mean, it's going to be higher than that this week, but you factor that in with where corn's at with a $4 December corn board. You take basis off of that, you've got a lot of 360 to 370 corn across the corn belt, which just spills right into these feeder cattle. And it's going to be hard to break this thing right now. We're also seeing a little bit of support with these Brazilian tariffs. Obviously, the screwworm situation down in Mexico, which has got the border closed. And I mean, it's just this cattle market, it's been hitting on all cylinders. And right now it continues to do that. And there's just from a fundamental perspective, there's very little in the way to stop this thing.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch with the team, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthem. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net to find any of the ag market brokers.
All right, thanks for the conversation as always, Ross, and we look forward to talking again soon.
Thanks, Riley. You too.
Thanks again to the folks at agmarket.net for joining us as always. We'll take a look at the closing market prices through the market window at iowaagnet.com. September corn down 1 3/4 at 379 3/4. September soybeans down 6 even at 965 1/2. September soybean meal down 440 at 272.60. Soybean oil down 5 cents at 53.72. Chicago wheat up 1/4 cent at 508 1/2. Kansas City hard red wheat up 7 even at 511 1/2. Minneapolis spring wheat down a penny at 568, and September oats up 4 even at 332 3/4. On the Merc, August live cattle up 202 at 236.30. August feeders up 397 at 345.02. October lean hogs down 82 cents at 91.97. October pork cutout went unchanged at 102.22, and August Class 3 milk down 6 cents at 17.33. That's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM, and that also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM PM on our YouTube channel. You can also find our free midday, morning, and closing market podcasts, as well as the Iowa Ag Matters podcast and Pods of Potential. Find those on your favorite podcasting services at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and Podbean, or once again on our website at iowaagnet.com. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, Ashton Jolly, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the Iowa State Fair. This has been Ag Matters PM.